friends, so in today's video we're going to be talking about looking back or going back to what we just got out of, what God is bringing us out of, or what God wants to bring you out of. Okay, so I'm going to be reading from Genesis 19, the whole chapter. But before I do, I just wanted to give a bit of a background of what's going on in this text. So back in Genesis chapter 12, Abraham, which was Abram at the time, God told him to move to a different country. So he did that. He took his wife Sarah, who at the time was Sarai, and he took his nephew Lot with him. So they got to wherever they were going. They settled, and then there was a controversy basically between Lot's people and Abraham's people. And so Lot decided to go in a different direction. He went to took a different path of life, and he ended up he looked up and he saw Sodom. And in this place there was a lot of wickedness, a lot of evil things going on, basically the kind of things that we see today, right? Especially if you live like in the ghetto, if you live in the hood, there's a lot of things that you see that you normally wouldn't see in different places, but this is just kind of basically what's going on in this place. And this is where he chose to go. And so he decided to go there because when he looked and he saw what it looked like, it looked good, it looked appealing to his eyes, right? And how many times do we go make decisions, we get into relationships, we just start something, we get into things because of how it looks, right? Because it looks good, it's appealing to us that oh, he looks good, right? Or your friend, she has this, she has that, he has this, he has that, and or we get into the job because it pays us this much. But is that what God told you to do? Okay, so moving right on, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read chapter 19, and I'm reading from the NIV. So bear with me, y'all, it's a little long. So it says, the two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way in the early morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Therefore they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom. Both young and old surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so that we can have sex with them. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. So right there, that just shows you what kind of place Lot is in. These guys come knock on his door so that they can have sex with men, right? Weird. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, no, my friends, don't do this. He's calling them his friends. Don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. That's weird. I'm sorry, that's weird. And that kind of shows that what kind of mindset Lot has. And maybe he's this way because he's been in such an evil, wicked place for so long, and which is what happens, right? When you're in when you're in a place where there's nothing but evil, nothing but wickedness, where you're in bondage, basically, your mind starts to work this way. Your spirit starts to operate in this kind of way, and the kind of spirits that's around you and that's surrounding you. So I don't know, that's just my thought. That's just weird though. Never. But it says, but don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of your way, they replied. Oh, sorry. Get out of our way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. So that's interesting, because whenever God is trying to remove you from something, he'll start doing things to remove these people from you, to remove you from the situation, and he'll do things little by little. Like he's trying to protect you. He's trying to keep you from the situation. And even though you put yourself in the situation, he's still trying to go after you and bring you out of it. So when these things start happening, you have to really pay attention. You have to really take heed and just move forward. You might not understand it at the time. You might not want to do it. It might not seem like something, it might seem inconvenient to you. But guess what? It's going to be for your best interest. So two men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against this people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-laws who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry and get out of this place. First of all, he got sons-in-laws there who's about to marry his daughters, but he's about to try to give his daughters up. I don't know what I would do if I was those son-in-laws, but hey. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. So I guess the sons-in-law stood back too. When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, flee for your lives. Don't look back. Don't look back. Specifically what they said. And don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away. But Lot said to them, no, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. So now he's trying to make bargains, and he's trying to make deals and do something that he was never told to do. But once again, he's trying to do what's comfortable for him, right? And like most of us do. How about we do this? God, if you just let me do this, or God, if you just let this person stay in my life, I promise you that I'll do this. And if you just let me go here, and if you just let me have this job, right? Always trying to beg, and always trying to bargain, and always trying to plead, and try to make things, mold things into what feels comfortable for us, right? But even with that, they still allowed it to happen. And he was still given mercy. So it says, he said to him, very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town was called Zor. By the time Lot reached Zor, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Why would she look back? They specifically said, don't look back. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord, he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. So because Abraham had prayed for him and had been praying for him, he honored that prayer, those prayers. He honored those requests that Abraham made for Lot on Lot's behalf, because Lot couldn't see what was going on, right? Lot didn't notice the danger that he was in, because when you get into something that looks, like I said before, that looks appealing to you, that you might think is a good idea. At the beginning, it might look like a good idea and even when you first get into it, it might look like a good idea. It might look like it's a good relationship, everything's going smooth, your friendship, everything's going smooth, then things start happening, right? Then and sometimes you might not even know, you still might not even see what's really going on, but God sees it. God knows what's going to happen. God knows, so, and other people might see it too, or God might put it in other people's heart to pray for you, because God, he'll probably give people visions. He'll probably just place it on their heart, oh wow, I need to pray for this person, and you might not even know what it's about. So anyway, so she looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt, right? Now, what if that happened whenever we decided to look back or go back to a situation? Like, wow. Thankfully, things like this don't happen to us, right? But here's what happens when we decide to go back to those relationships, friendships, or whatever it may be. So, we bring ourselves into bondage, right? We bring ourselves back into bondage. You're bringing yourself into a dangerous place. Why? Because when God closes a door on something, it's for a reason, I'm sorry, I'm looking down. It's my notes. My mind could to just run. So when I write things down, is because it helps me stay in line with where I'm at. So maybe there's physical harm coming your way. Maybe there's just things holding you back. This thing is just holding you back from your calling, from your purpose, for who God created you to be. Like one of my pastors said the other day, they may be a good person, but that doesn't mean that they're good for you. Not everything is meant for you. Not everyone is meant for you. So when God removes you from something, I encourage you to never look back. Don't go back to it. Proverbs 26:11 says, "As a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool repeats his folly." Every time we return to what we came from, it's like returning to our own vomit. Like, that's dumb, right? That's gross. You wouldn't do that, right? So why would you return to your foolishness? We're returning to the nonsense that we were in for. It might not even been a long time that you were in it, right? But you were still in it at some point, and I'm pretty sure, like, at some point there was an uneasiness when you were in this relationship, when you were in this situation, when you was at that job, and you knew that it was time for that door, for that chapter to be closed. But then you start feeling like, oh man, I kind of missed this thing. Oh man, you start thinking about the good times versus, what was actually the situation, what was actually going on, right? So you start feeling this, you're missing this place, you're missing this thing, and now you're like, man, I want to go back to this. There was some good times, and so you end up going back into the situation, right? And then in the beginning, when you go back, right? In the beginning, everything is all good. You go back to and let me just speak for myself, right? I've had friendships, or I've had relationships where, just like I said, I'm in the relationship, and then things start happening. All these bad things start happening. They start showing their true colors. The boyfriends, they start, showing, these abusive signs, or you know, physically abusive, mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be. They start, you know, just showing me things that I'm just like, you know, this person is not for me. Even if it's not abuse, even if it's just, you know that this person is not for you. You guys, you just, you know, y'all don't mesh, you're not for each other, but you guys have a lot of good times, right? And then when you break up, you know, things start going bad. And then when you break up, you decide, you know, I'm over that. And then for some reason, the enemy will come and he will bring these thoughts back to you. You start missing, and then you start missing this person. You start thinking of all these memories, or you see a post, you see them post something, or you know, you're just reminded of them for some reason. You hear a song, oh, that used to be our song, wow. And so now you're going down memory lane, and you're like, man, you know, we did have some good times, and you know what, maybe let me hit him up to see how he's doing, you know, let me hit her up to see how she's doing, you know, even if it's a friend. Oh, let me see, you know. But God took you out of this situation, and you go back to it. So then when you go back to it, what happens? Oh, we're just gonna be friends, or we're just gonna, you know, I'm not gonna be that cool with her, we're just gonna, you know, talk, right? And what happens? In the beginning, everything is good, you're having a good time like before, and then eventually these things, the negative things, the bad things start happening again. The gossip starts happening with the friend, the abuse starts happening with the old boyfriend again. But this time it's worse. Because whenever you go back to something that you were brought out of, every time you return, it becomes worse. Every time, you know, that the boyfriend, he becomes more abusive. You know, every time, like I said, every time you come out of something, it's for a reason. So when God closes that door, just walk through that door, shut that door, slam that door, and do not go back. It's so dangerous. You know, for me, like I said, personally, I've had friendships where, you know, I've given chance after chance, and every time I go back to it, it's just the same nonsense. I'm brought into something that I have nothing to do with. You know, I don't want to be, I'm not the type of person, I don't like gossip, I don't like drama, I don't like nonsense. You know, growing up, I didn't really have a lot of female friends. I always stuck to my 1 to 3 friends, you know, and I wouldn't even say circle, I wouldn't say none of that, because I didn't have many female friends growing up. I've always had like guy friends, and people, you know, always be like, you know, why do you have guy friends? That's weird and whatever. But for me, having female friends was weird because, you know, I just didn't agree with the kind of way that that they behaved. And so anyways, so whenever I did have any female friends and I'll go back to them, it was just like not it was just not a good thing, because like I said, every time I did, it was just the same. It was the same every time I went back to it. The same way I thought that, oh, you know what, maybe they'll change. Or especially after I became a Christian, it was just like, you know, maybe if I hang around with them long enough, they'll start seeing, you know, the way I am, the way I behave, the way I speak, and they'll, you know, start to change. No, baby, you can't change nobody if they don't want to change. You can't, unless God tells you to go back into that relationship, he allows that. Don't do it, because like I said, he done closed that door. If he don't give you the okay to go back, then don't do it, because it's gonna bring you back. You know, that's what happened with me. It started bringing me back to a place where I didn't want to be, to doing things that I didn't want to do. You know, when I would go back to the relationships that God brought me out of, what would happen in the beginning? Like I said, in the beginning, I'd be like, oh man, I remember all these good times. And you sit there talking about, oh, you remember this, you remember that, and then eventually you start seeing, oh wow, this is the reason why I left this person. This is the reason why God removed me from the situation. You know, so, you know, I just encourage you guys, if God have removed you from a situation, a relationship, a friendship, a job, whatever it is, do not go back. If you know that he's removing you from it, if he is closing that door, run through that door, run through that door, and shut that door, slam it, put a bolt lock, do whatever you have to do, but do not go back to it, because it's not good. Like, do not do it. Do not do it. I encourage you to do not do it, okay? And I just pray that you have a blessed day. I pray that my story, even though it wasn't really a story, which I will get to one day, I am going to tell you guys my full story. But I just pray that this conversation really touched you, and that it really blessed you, and that it really opened your eyes, and that it encouraged you. Okay, guys? So I pray that you have a blessed day. I love you, and I see you in the next video.